when Job lost his family, his words were, Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai mevarach. The Lord gave and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be God's name. And these have to be our words now as we face the loss of our husband and father and grandfather and relative and friend, Steve Slone. And we say Adonai Natan, that the Lord gave us Steve. He enriched our lives, made the world a funnier place. And now Adonai Lakach, and now God has taken him from our midst. But we say thank you, God, with the words Yehi Shem Adonai Mevarach. Blessed be God's name. At this moment, we do what Jews have done throughout the centuries. We turn to the book of Psalms, and there in the 121st Psalm it says, Esa'enai el haharim, me'ayin yavo Ezri me'im Adonai yosei shamayim va'aretz. I lift up mine eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your protector will not slumber. See, the protector of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian. God is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. Adonai yishmar tzeitcha v'u'echa me'at haviad olam. God will guard your soul, your going and your coming, now and forever. Together let us recite the words of the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Adonai ma adam v'tede'ehu, ben enosh v'tachashvehu. O God, what are we that you have regard for us? What are we that you are mindful of us? We are like a breath. Our days are as a passing shadow. We come and go like grass, which in the morning shoots up renewed, and in the evening fades and withers. You cause us to revert to dust, saying, Return, O mortal creatures. Would that we were wise, that we understood whither we are going. For when we die, we carry nothing away. Our glory does not accompany us. Mark the wholehearted, and behold the upright, they shall have peace. God, you redeem the soul of your servants, and none that trust in you shall be desolate. In the book of Ecclesiastes, it says, L'chol zaman v'la'et l'chol chefetz tachat hashamayim, et la'ledet v'et la'mut, et la'tad v'et la'kornitiyah. For everything there is a season and a time for every experience under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot what is planted, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to discard, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak. And this is just one of those moments that is both. As mourners, you find it very difficult to speak. On the other hand, what we know about grief is that you talk your way through grief. And so the more that we can talk, the more that we can get the family to share, the better off they are. So if I were to make a suggestion to you as you pay a condolence call, one of the things you can do is, of course, get the family to speak. We're going to hear from almost everybody in the family room today. But the best thing you can do, there are no words that will take away their grief. And the best thing that you can do is you can tell them a Steve story and how Steve affected your life and touched your life. And of course, that means that they might break down and cry, and then you can do what your job is, to come and comfort the mourners and just put your arms around them and let them know that you love them and that you're there for them, because you can't really take it away. But you can ease it a little bit by telling them a Steve story. So, Sandra, I guess you are the first of the family members to share a Steve story with us.
Dearest Steve, as I think back over our life together, we have known each other for 55 years. Married 52. It's a blur. Remember when we met at the Todd Hotel in those days? They had live music. We danced all night. I didn't know him, but you knew me because I was in your astronomy class. However, I was dating the prof, the assistant prof, and I got an A. We were in college together, and I would wait for you to finish up your classes, and you would come into the cafe, and my heart would just beat really, really fast, and I had butterflies in my tummy when you walked in. I would be so excited to see you. Also, you would make me laugh, and he had made me laugh all through our years. He's a funny guy. You were our champion, our support system, our protector. Family always came first with you. Steve, you were active with the children and their activities. You coached Little League, both for Michelle and Mark. You were a Cub Scout leader and so much more. And I just have to say, when he coached the girls, they were out there in the field and they were doing their hair and they were not paying attention, and the ball would whiz by, and he would never get mad at them. He would just say, "Girls, be careful. You're playing baseball here." Also, you loved to teach people. I remember when you were reading Benjamin Franklin's autobiography. I don't know how many of you remember this, but he would relay what he had just read to you, and you would listen, because he was a good storyteller and very knowledgeable. Even in your career in the air pollution control business, you were a champion to the cause of clean air. You worked for Donaldson Company out of Minneapolis, and he was there for over 30 years. And he put in a lot of systems, and if the systems didn't work, he found a way to design something that would fit. He was all about doing the right thing, helping people. Other salesmen throughout the country would call him and ask him for advice. And he was the go-to guy. And if anyone had a question, they would say, "Ask Steve." I'm stopping here. I love you, and I miss you.
We're going to read this together. So, my grandpa was such an arms-opening guy. Whenever you came into the door, he was always right there to give you a big hug.
His hugs always felt like home. As we all know, his adventures were everything. We used to fly to Florida every year with my Nana and Papa, and we would all drive back together to Ohio. Of course, we made so many wrong turns that at one point I was actually directing us.
But with my papa, we were never lost. There was always a new adventures. Our adventures always turned out to be the most fun part of our trip. To ice cream, to so many hours of swimming, to even doing schoolwork. I hope my papa has so many good adventures as we did with him in heaven, and we love you with all of our hearts.
If you look in the dictionary for the definition of friend, it will read, quote, a person whom one knows, likes, and trusts, unquote. If you look up the definition of good close friend, it will read and show a picture of Steve Slone. Steve was a true friend. It was wonderful, an honor really, to have had Steve as a friend for more than 35 years. As some of you know, Steve was an impulsive, spontaneous kind of guy. He'd pick up the phone and suggest going for a walk, or perhaps it was to suggest going out for some ice cream. We celebrated holidays together, or watched football, despite the rivalry between our Browns and his Steelers. Steve personified the word Hamish. Since he lived around the corner from us, he was always available to help with those nagging minor repairs around the house. When I inherited a good set of tools, I really didn't know what to do with them or how to use them properly, which a lot of people that are here today know that's true. So I gave them to Steve, with the ulterior motive of giving him a wider range of repairs he could help me with. After Steve and Sandy moved out of town, I didn't have that dependable, always available fix-it friend to turn for help. It was at that point that Eileen and I decided it was time to move into an apartment, so all those nagging minor repairs would be taken care of. Steve was one of the most caring people I knew. I will miss him, but I know I will never forget him. Rest well, good friend.
This is really hard. First of all, I'm super annoyed that we're not all sitting here together because in my dad's mind, you were all family. So, I mean, if can we all be together? No, they could come out here. I mean, I have to do this because this was not my dad. We were not separated. He loved everybody in this room. I really appreciate this. There's room over here too. Thank you. I really appreciate that from the bottom of my heart because am I right? I am my dad's and mother's daughter. He would have loved this. He would have loved to have all of us together like this. I mean, if my dad was all about family. And there's people in here that I see that when you would walk into a room, he would light up. Stephanie and Lisa Rose and my best friend Kim. I mean, all of you. I mean, my dad loved you. And I think I'm looking at the photos and the memories of everybody in this room. I love my daddy. Oh my God, all I can think is sassafras and Furtzergurgel. Stephanie Lynn. My dad, he was such a great man. And I'm gonna miss him. I'm gonna miss him. I had so much to say, and it's just not there right now. But I just, who? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This is really hard. I'm sorry. I love all of you. I appreciate you all being here, and I know my dad does. And I'm sorry, I can't.
I'm not quite sure how I follow such true emotions and so forth. And of course, here goes one perfectly good sermon because you've taken it all from me. Sandra and Michelle and David and Mark and Stuart, Oliver Shalom, and Jacob and Shirley, Oliver Shalom, and Maya and Olivia and Jacob and Hunter and Lisa Rose and Rosalie and Ben and Ellen and Gary and Eileen and Les and Betty and Ann and Seymour and Paula and Gail and Jerry and Harvey and Linda and all the rest of the members of the YPC from those years. I remember it well. I remember coming to Temple Emmanuel in August of 1972, and I met the members of the YPC, and what a great group that was at that time. And there was this, I hate to say, slightly overweight man with a great smile and an adorable chic wife on his arm. And the two of them were one of the best ballroom dancers I had ever seen. And there was this man, light on his feet. Steve was such an outgoing guy, always interested in others and, wanted to know about things in my life. He told me that he was in the air pollution business and that he worked for Donaldson and a sales engineer. And countless times I had to ask him, what exactly did that mean, Steve? And he explained it to me that he was good at his job of controlling airflow and preventing fires in restaurants and places. But, of course, Steve, being a salesman, had a great gift of gab. This I remember as well, that Steve was active in all the parts of the congregation. The YPC, the Brotherhood, Couples Club, anything that he could do around the temple. And then I knew he was a great tennis player, especially when he teamed up with his good friend Ben Richmond. I hear they were unbeatable, as the kids told me. I always liked Steve until I learned yesterday, or actually was reminded, what an avid Steelers fan he was. In fact, he's buried in Steelers paraphernalia. But what can you expect from a guy who grew up in Pittsburgh? He loved the Steelers then. He loved watching them. He loved talking about the plays with Mark, and the fact that Mark was a rabid fan like himself, and his father, Jacob, with whom he was so close, and as he was with his mother, Shirley, who he absolutely adored. I mean, Mark, you made him proud to be a Steelers fan. So as we heard, Steve goes off to, it used to be what, Youngstown College at that time before it was Youngstown State. And it was there, as you told us, at what was it, Todd Hotel there, where they had the dancing, that you met, and he sold you right then and there. I mean, anybody could dance the way he could. But maybe it was a little bit more the fact that he was sweet and caring and handsome with his great hair, and of course he could charm anyone. He was a big flirt too. So, well, that was 55 years ago, and as you said, 53 years of wonderful married life together. Sandra, not only did he admire you and respect you, but that you knew that he put you first in his life. And he was, as you said to me, a true partner with you. He did the laundry and cleaned and prepared dinner. Do you know how many women would die to have such a mate? Steve was always fun to be with. With all of you, Steve was the activities director, the guide, the trip planner. He always knew the best restaurants. You know why? Because, what? He and Walter. Just because they loved to eat and relished it. And the sweets that probably at the house, one of the things you could do for Steve would be to eat a sweet at the house when we come back. The two of you had a real symbiotic relationship. He made you laugh all the time, and you were so caring and devoted to Steve. You were true friends, as you said. Often you would dress in a similar manner and say the same thing at the same time. You admired Steve for his inquisitive mind and always wanting to know how things worked. And as Gary pointed out, he was really very handy and fixed all kinds of things. And devoted, like at the work and so forth, he had that mind to fix it. You admired him also for his devotion to his older brother, Stuart Zikrona Livracha, who he watched over and cared for. And what about the relationships with Lisa Rose and Rosalie? I know that you adored him as well because he was kind and caring. Now, the two of you had a great time in life, not only dancing, but traveling on the various cruises to Bermuda, the Baltics, the Mediterranean. As was indicated that by the girls, turning left when he should have been right was not a big deal because you were on another adventure, as Steve put it in his unique vocabulary of Fritzegurgel, is that what? And a girl chick, you left that one out, and boy chick, he was RFS to you. And we forgot his famous statements such as chance favors the prepared mind. And of course, the big one, wherever you are, wherever you go, there you are. Now, I totally forgotten until you reminded me yesterday that he really was that hands-on dad. Steve was, and I knew that he adored you, his children, Michelle and Mark, but just hearing how he was at every sporting event that you were involved in. And to your chagrin, you didn't tell us how jealous you were of his coaching the team because all the other girls adored him as well. Let's see, he called you Princess Summer, Fall, Winter, Spring? And of course you were his favorite daughter. I love the stories about his demanding that your dates come into the house to pick you up. But of course, when they did, he happened to have his sword, his trusty sword there. And how did you put it to me, Mark, when he showed up at all your games and he said to you, "I always have your back," and he did. And indeed for the two of you, you could always depend on your dad, for you knew of his love and his concern for you was never a question. And he was very proud of the two of you and proud of the families that you have produced, of Maya, Olivia, Jacob, and Hunter. When you as grandchildren came in to his life, every time, he just lit up, even with his painted toes, right? You have to ask the kids the story about that. Steve was always up to everything, any adventure, even if it was perilous. All of you knew that Steve loved history, especially World War II history and Russian history, loved golf, tennis, and what I think he loved most of all was having a good time in life. Papa was a lot of fun to be around, and you as grandchildren even made it more so. He was, as Hunter put it, a happy guy, right? Each of you brought him so much joy, and that you should know. Now, remind me about the hand motions and the barn smells, right? I can't do that. There we go. Okay. One of the things I know that life here in Cleveland was really great for you. You had all these wonderful friends in the YPC, all these wonderful relationships. And I kept thinking you were saying Eden Rock, but you were saying Eaton Rock, Eaton Run, yes. Eaton Run, that group that, someone would make dinner and then everybody showed up and just ate and ran and got their schedules. There's just all these wonderful stories and this wonderful friendship from the YPC. And of course, there were lots and lots of celebrations together. Sandra and Steve, the two of you retired to Florida, and they were good years down there too at the beginning. Steve loved being in the community, playing tennis down there, raising money and educating people about prostate cancer. And every time he came back, he tried to convince me to move down there. He loved the life there. And then we'll never know why. But life changed drastically, and a dark shadow came over Steve, which he couldn't shake. So many times he had rebounded from things, physical setbacks and so forth, but this time he just couldn't. Sandy, you were really terrific. Your care for him and your helping him and so forth, and Michelle and Mark, so understanding and so supportive. Well, the ringmaster, Steve Slone, has blown his final whistle. And the show that was Steve, the curtain has come down. But we will never forget all the fun we had with him and his long-windedness, his excitement in life. And I think that probably it is time for us to end this eulogy because the Steelers game is going to start pretty soon, and Steve has to get to his seat. But this we know, that his seat in front of our televisions will be empty. And we'll never forget him. And we just all want to say, Steve, thank you. Thank you for the job you did in this life. You were wonderful. And we can only say to you, like B'Shalom, go in peace. Now, I'm sure if the rest of you had a chance to stand up here, now that the room is rearranged and and we're together, that you would have words that we left out. So let's spend a few moments in silent talking to Steve and saying our own words as well. For Steve Slone's love that united us in life and which death cannot sever. For his companionship that we shared along life's path and which continues to the tenderness of memory. For the gifts of his heart and mind that brought us joy and happiness and is now a precious remembrance. For all of these and more, we give our thanks to God, and may the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O God, our strength and our Redeemer. And let us all say, Amen. We rise for the Emelei Rachamim. Emelei Rachamim, Shochem Bamromim, Amsei Menucha Nechuna Tachat Kamfei HaShekhinah, Im Kedoshim Ataharim Kezohar Haraki Amazirim, Et Nishmat Shlomo ben Yaakov Vasara, Shehalach LaOlamo. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Stephen Robert Slone, the son of Jacob and Shirley Slone. Bal harachamim yastu rehu baseder kenafav lolamim v'yitzrur b'tzrur hachayim et nishmato Adonai hu nachalato v'yanuach b'shalom al mishkavo v'nomar Amen. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace, and let us all say, Amen. You may be seated. This concludes our service here. We'll continue at the graveside and then return to the home of Les and Betty Greenberg, which is on 25465 Bryden Road. And the family will be receiving tonight until 8 o'clock or until the Steelers finish. And then Monday and Tuesday from 2 to 4 and 7 to 9. And contributions are suggested to the American Heart Association or the American Cancer Association.